Welcome, Ephraim. We're back at it again, and we're doing the Word of Yehovah's Power, Part 2. Sticking with the real game of life. Know the rules if you want to win. Yehovah gave us a formula for all this to work. It's about time we realize it. That's a quote from Prophet Tom Deckard, our mentor. So let's just move on with prayer, and from there we'll get into this. So, Father, Yehovah, we come to you. We ask you for forgiveness of our sins, known and unknown, Father. We thank you for that forgiveness. Take authority over darkness in any form that would come against us in Yeshua's name. And you are bound. You're bound under the earth, below the earth, and above the earth. In Yeshua's name. Loose the angels, Father, to go forward so that we can all have our eyes open. I can have my eyes open, my ears open, Father, so we can. So your anointing can flow, Father. So speak what needs to be spoken, to be heard what needs to be heard. We just thank you for that, Father. We just praise and worship you for this opportunity where you have us today in this time frame. All that in Yeshua's name, Father. Just thank you, praise you. Amen. Well, Ephraim, it's been exciting to be able to put this together with the people that are participating. So let's get into it. So we got some slides again today to help with the illustrations. I hope you like them. The first is a bit on some slides. I went to a seminar. My wife's like, you got to come. And I was like, I don't know. And I went, and I had a really good time. We ended up talking to the gentleman who put on the mind and body connection seminar. We spent some time talking with him. We had some good laughs. Gave me his PowerPoint. Had a few ideas because as he was talking about the mind and body and what we've been teaching, mind and body, spirit, a few things popped up. So we're going to go through some of his slides that he created, and then we're going to roll them over into an Ephraim point of view. So I hope you enjoy. So first, it starts off, what is health? What is health? That's a really good question. So what three things are the pillars of health? And we've been around a while. We kind of have an idea of that. And if you have an idea of what they are, just write them down. And if you're listening to this on YouTube and not live, just go ahead and hit pause and write them down and hit play again as we go through some questions and answers through this. So another thing is, what is the definition of health? That's a really good question. What is the definition of health? Two really good questions. And I'd imagine if we grabbed everyone's answers, some of them will be the same, but we're going to have some variances, difference of opinion, different of insight. But let's take a look at some of the common answers. So three most common answers, you have nutrition, and you have exercise, and you have sleep. So, okay, the three pillars. Some people have said some different things, but that's kind of what we've been taught, and it makes sense. They made good sense of that. Next is, what's the definition of health? So a state of optimal physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmities. So that's from the World Health Organization. Next, there's another definition. We got two. So a condition of wholeness to which all of the organs are functioning 100% of the time. So that's a Webster's Dictionary. Me, I like the World Health Organization's definition here. That one, so you might have your favorite, but that's what they say it is, them. So again, thinking about mind and body. So mind and body. So here we have a picture of a house on fire. So who are you going to call? Any idea? Of course we know who we're going to call. We're going to call the fireman. And the fireman's going to come in, and the fireman's going to put out the flames, right? You're going to be excited because your house is on fire. You're going to call the fire team. They arrive quickly. They got water. They got hoses. They got axes. They got sirens. Emotions are high. And they're going to come and put out that fire for you. Makes sense. So next is when they're done. They put out the fire. He's like, I did such a good job. And remember, the house is your body. and they put it out. Your valuables are damaged. There's water everywhere. Your house is tore apart. It's not livable anymore, but you're so happy. Your house is in worse condition than it's ever been, but you're so happy. You thank them, you praise them, and you say, man, what happened? They came in and they got one solution for everything. The firemen, one part of your house could be on fire. They're going to douse the whole thing, take the whole thing apart because they don't want the fire to come back. So the fireman is looking at the medicine, the old paradigm type of thinking. The house, well, that's your body, that's you. Let's move on. So again, the same type of thinking. We're saying the house is on fire. The medicine, instead of a fireman, is a doctor. Same thing, but we're transitioning the thought here. So a doctor is going to come along and he's going to work at your body, which is your house, like the fire team. He's a doctor. You're going to call him. He's going to treat you, right? He's going to treat your symptoms, not the problem. He's going to tear down your house by giving you some medicine. So you say you had a stomach issue. He's going to give you some medicine. This is the old paradigm thinking. And then that medicine's going to get rid of that stomach trouble. But all of a sudden, you got gas, you got a lump in your forehead, your eyes twitching, you got a bit of a rash. Well, who knows? But what I'm trying to say is you got a few more problems than the one you went and tried to fix, or symptoms, I should say. So, but that's what doctors in the medical field, the world system, are trained to do. Okay, so it's kind of one solution for everything. You know what they say with the firemen when you're done? It says you got insurance, right? Because that's what they depend on. What's the doctor say? You got insurance, right? Because that's what they depend on. But let's move on. So what do? We call in a carpenter. So really, when the house is the body and there's an issue that's going on, we should have really worked with the carpenter from the beginning, all the way through. But when there's a big fire, for the way we perceive it, all of a sudden, we call the fireman, we call the doctor, and we got more problems than whatever. But with a carpenter, he's going to come in and he's going to fix the house. Because you finally got to the point, you're like, I need to get this carpenter in. And he recognizes what you need. So a blueprint is laid out, a design. And then you talk with the carpenter and you work with the parts, and then hey, you need this, and then there's this option, and then there's delivery, and you got to tear down and start at the cornerstone, and you got to fix the thing correctly and do everything right. And I mean, you really have a blueprint, but you really, you don't know everything. The carpenter does, because this is what carpenters do. So then he remains in charge, and you go to the carpenter and you're learning as you go. And next thing you know, this thing shows up in 3D, this house that used to be in 2D in a blueprint. And it works out great. The thing is, a carpenter, you can't come and be in charge. The carpenter's in charge. You try and have a say and work with them, and they want to kind of meet your need and do it that way, but they know the rules, they know the laws about the permits and the regulations and everything that needs to be done so that it's correct. So for us, sometimes we have a fire in our body with medicine, and we turn around and we think that we went to a doctor in this fireman type strategy, and then we go back and we have this body, this house, and it's worse off than before, but we're living in a fantasy bubble because we thought we went to a carpenter to fix it, this doctor fireman approach. We didn't go to the carpenter the way that we needed to. You kind of get where I'm going with all this paradigm of thinking. So let me help you transition a little bit further. So it's called the fireman carpenter principle. So let me just get my cursor over here, and I'll get my laser pen. So I did such a good job, the fireman. Tore it all down and wet and holes, and your valuables are no good. So the doctor, if this was a body, that's what the doctor would be doing to you, causing more issues, right? Working at symptoms than taking care of it. So the medicine, the old paradigm type of thinking. A carpenter is going to fix it right from the beginning as it would relate to the doctor. It's a new paradigm type of thinking. So back over here. So let's take a situation. And this situation that we're going to use for the doctor and the fireman type of thing is high blood pressure. So they say it's a disease, right? And you're going to have a symptom-based approach. So this medical approach, they treat the symptoms by using drug therapy. So they're going to do an ACE inhibitors. They're going to get calcium channel. They're going to do Lasix. It gets into potassium depleting and hurting your semi-membrane, membrable permeable membrane. Wow, it's a tongue twister. But anyway, all these other types of things and chemically start to happen, and you know what, your blood pressure goes down for a while until you do something different. It's going to shoot back up, but it fixed the symptom for a little while. So interesting. So then we take the approach, well, this is a treatment of the symptom. It's not a root cause. Okay, they're not treating the root cause. So not what we want, but this is what we get, and this is what we praise, and this is what we go after because we've been trained. Next, we're looking at high blood pressure. Again, the disease symptom-based approach, but there's some alternative medicine guys. So they're not quite in the doctor fireman thing, but they're in their own thing. And they're saying, we got it solved. So we're going to come in and do again, treating the symptom. We're just going to we're going to make sure everything's topped up. We're going to make sure your fish oils, your B12 shots are up, your EPAs, your CoQ10, magnesium, potassium, and all sorts of everything. And we're just going to make sure that's jacked up. And you know what? Again, what's happening? They're treating the symptom, not the root cause. These are good things to have those things optimized, but are you optimizing them? Are you causing some issues? There's some other things happening. You know, it's a little new agey type of treatment, kind of mixing the old with some of the new, but not all the way that we need to take this whole paradigm shift in thinking of medicine. So looking at the Carpenter way, the wellness way. So we got high blood pressure. So what this group does that I went and saw, they went through a test and I ended up doing it. And we did some testing, some heavy metal detoxicity testing, food allergy, gastrointestinal functional testing. I can't pronounce this next one, but I'll see cytokine panel. Anyway, it's a reading of all those different things that are inside your body, okay? And then there's neurotransmitter testing, and there's a bunch of other testing that they did. But what they're doing is they're getting into your cells, the amount of cells, and amount of different types of cells, the condition that they're in, the minerals in your body, everything that's going on, the different type of neurological, different type of systems that you have and how it's functioning and at what rate. So they're getting the pulse of all the different sections of your body, and they're saying, okay, we're going to take a look at it. So we took a look at it. But these guys are fixing the root cause. They're going to the root cause. They're taking the time, and they're doing the analysis, and that's the thing. And they're not looking at the symptom. Not yet, but they're going to look at the symptom once they look at the root cause. So here's one of the sheets that they produce. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I can read this. The special doctor and their team can read it, and a bunch of other people. Now, in my layman, non-total understanding, I'm going to tell you, if you take these group of cells over here, right? Let's see over here, and then you cut out some of these things, and then these cells are going to function better, but it's going to help this other organ function better. It's going to be able to secrete the thing that you need better. It's going to help your brain fog go away. And if you change this for a period of time and then do this and get away from these alternative medicine things, which are good, but we're going to implement some of those at the right time a little bit later. And then we're going to get you into a condition where this is going to be fixed. And let me tell you, well, there was another test I'm going to talk about, but it was really something to learn about how, and I've read about this, I understood it, I have a bit of education and all this for a period of time, but to be able to see it, understand it, and touch it and feel it was quite a thing, and participate in it. So next, to talk about the other thing is they did a food allergy test, and this was interesting. So this part right here, let me tell you about this part. Blue means non-detectable when they did this test, and then the red is low, moderate, high, very high. See the numbers correlate. So this test over here says blackberry for this person was a 1, so you don't have blackberries. And then also coconut and cod and crab and egg whites and egg yolk, flaxseed, scallops, hemp seed, wheat, and brewer's yeast. That's a tough one. Anyway, all of these blue ones underneath here, these ones are okay to have. You didn't have a reaction at this time. And these ones over here, these ones didn't come up, but try and stay away from those too. So for me, when I got my test back, I went and did it, plus I had the other tests, and I started to make these changes. So it was quite interesting when I made some of these changes in my life, because it was a little difficult because I had to think differently. I ended up talking differently, and I acted differently. And my mood swing a bit because I was so used to having something at a certain time that was comforting for my flesh, and my mind was used to be able to participating in that. And I had to go through all these different types of things, and I had to have a lot of discipline, and I had to have a lot of commitment to be able to change. So during the 8-week period of time that I went through this and really pushed it, I didn't work out. I didn't do anything. I lost about 10 to 15 pounds. I lost inflammation. A lot of brain fog went away. A couple little dots that I had disappeared on my skin, which is an organ, and things started to change. So I have to go back and do another test, and I'd imagine that some of these are going to change. Some of these might come up, but I know my stomach lining, which replaces every 48 hours, is stronger. So I'm having less leaky gut, so less affecting my body, and I'm starting it the way that I needed to be able to start it. And let me tell you, what a trip, but what a mental trip. I had to create new habits. I had to explain to people what I'm going through. I'm not trying to offend you that I can't eat this food, but this is how I live now, and this is what's going on in my life. And I could tell you more about it if you'd like to know. Otherwise, can you just respect it? And being fruitful through the whole thing, it was something. But again, that was my mind, body, my experience. I really wanted to have a better benefit, and it started after 6 to 8 weeks really start to show. And then now I want to do more because I had some results, and I want to be able to go forward with this. Mind and body. Okay. So I really tried to get that out quick because I don't want to make this too long of a teaching, which it is going to be. But anyway, so the mind and body, the question is, what is the number one cause of the mind and body to be run down? It's a really good question. And we're thinking, well, wait a minute. We just talked about the pillars. We just talked about the definition of health. We just talked about, well, what is it? Ready? Stress. I didn't guess this when I was asked, when we were going through his presentation, which is way better than mine. But anyway, this presentation that I'm doing was a summary of his and trying to jam it in. Stress, it really blew me away. Stress is the number one cause. So my food that I was eating wasn't the number one cause. My sleep wasn't. My exercise wasn't. It was stress. So let's read about what the definition of stress is. So stress is a physical or physiological stimulus that can produce mental or physiological reactions that may lead to illness. Technically speaking, stress is a disruption of harmonious, which is balance. Okay, so it's disruption of balance, which may be triggered by alarming experiences, either real or imaginary. Hit the brakes. Real or imaginary causes stress, and that's what the definition is. Hey, we're really getting into some of the stuff that we're talking about on the spirit side, aren't we? All right, let's keep going. So stress can be physical, chemical, or emotional. This is by a medical dictionary. So wait, it could be real or imaginary. So your brain's doing it. And so it could be chemical, but we've learned that our mind puts out chemicals, and it could be emotional. Well, we know that our mind puts out chemicals because of emotions. And we know about warfare for your mind. Wow, this is really going somewhere. I really wanted to dig into this because it was made simple. It wasn't new agey. It was a lot of science stuff here. So, let's move on. So this is where our crossover is. Started a little early in the last slide, but here we go. Mind, body, and spirit crossover. So what we know or think we know about our good things for our house and our body. Okay. Minerals and vitamins. Yeah. A Rife machine, which is frequency, got one. Light therapy, do it. Hyperbaric, been there. Okay, know people. Hot and cold treatments, good for your body. Yeah. Exercise, stretching, heavy light techniques. Well, that's good. Food, diet, eating organic, removing processed foods and sugars. Okay, we got that. Sleep, getting your REM sleep in. Perfect. That equals to about 20% of the whole cause. We need to understand the root. Wait a minute. That's only 20%? Like we said, stress is the larger part. If you're doing these things perfect that we're talking about, and you have stress in your body, these things aren't going to function properly. So you're still going to have the issues, the cells not talking right, inflammation, thyroid off, all sorts of other things, mental fog, itches, sores, other things. Really? Absolutely. Absolutely. So we still need to go to the root cause. So things to build and maintain a good house and body, how much to use and when to use it, what's missing. So again, like the things we listed above, they're good things to help, but it's only the 20%. The 20% is only effective. It's less than if your stress is in check, right? How do you know how much food and when to eat what and when not to eat something like we talked about? We'll go back to the stress. So what's truly affecting your house and your body? If it isn't the food? Well, it does, but a bit, but not that much. It's not the three pillars. So, stress. Stress is the number one cause, like we talked about, but let's get into the definition of it. Stress, we're going to look at it from a physiological, affecting the physiological, okay? So the mind affecting the body, because we understand what stress is, coming in through the mind. So this is the definition I picked up. So affecting or arising in the mind related to the mental and emotional state of a person in the mind. So of an ailment or a problem having a mental rather than a physical cause. So you're having a cause of an ailment from your mind. I'm inflamed, or I have a sore in my body because of my mind. Because my mind is thinking about things that are causing this to happen. Stress. Now, I could have stress by a cut. I could have stress by a chemical burn. Sure. But we're talking about the physiological, the mental stress. So that equals to 80% of the whole cause. Matt, how'd you get 80 and 20? Hey, I picked them, but I'm real close. Let's not split hairs. That's not what we're here to do. Let's just keep going with this. So question, comments, hints of the 80%. All right, we're going to lead into a few things. So you cannot build, okay, with the carpenter. So you can't do the carpenter process if you do not know what's affecting your house and if you don't know what's affecting or how to fix it. Okay, so if you don't know what's affecting your house, and if you don't know how to fix it, you can't build with the carpenter, right? Your body. So think of the 20% as the greatness. It comes after the 80% is fixed. You got to fix the stress, and the 20% is just going to take you through the ceiling. It's going to be awesome. But you're going to play with the 20% because that's what you know, you can touch, you can feel, and that's what you've been taught. And you're not going to deal with the root, which is the 80%. But you're going to keep playing with the 20, thinking you're doing everything, or why isn't it working? It's the 80%. It's in your mind. It's the stress. So the 80% could be so simple. If you have the commitment and discipline to change your thinking, your words, and your actions. Remember how I showed that chart and I talked about the thinking I had to change? I had to do all sorts of actions with food prep. Right? The words, I'm talking to other people about what I'm going through so that they will not combat with me about it and accept it and actually maybe help me go through it. So, that was quite interesting. I was at someone's house. They're like, no, I'm cooking this. This is what we're eating. I'm like, well, I'm going through this thing and it's really healthy and I'm learning a lot. Do you mind if I just ate this, not all these other things? Well, what do you mean? I did all this work. I did everything else. I did blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, you're not listening to the words coming out of my mouth. Do you speak English? No, it's not what I said. I said, could you please find it in your heart just to allow me to do this? If I have to eat this to make you happy, I will. I'm not trying to offend you. But would it be okay with you? You know what? After that, it was okay. What did I apply? Applied some fruit. So let's go on. The word of Yehovah's power. Now we're crossing over from mind, body. Now we're doing mind, body, spirit. And now we're getting into the teaching here. So we're going to start off with a question, and we're going to get into a few things and repetitive. So what is keeping the covenant made up of? Good question. Now, let's look at 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. Now, this isn't the absolute God-given from Yehovah definition. This is just for our presentation. Please don't take it out of context. So looking at 365 days a year. So again, I'm keeping it simple for me, right? Maybe it's too simple for you, but I'm keeping it simple for me. So 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So that's times, date, and places is 20% relative to what we talked about, the food and the things that we know how to do in the other system. So what's that made up of? Well, that's feasts, Shabbats, new moons, mikvahs, incense, more things like that. Okay. All right, we're following along here. So thoughts, words, and actions are 80%. So those are the 33% mind, 33% Yehovah talking to me, 33% darkness. We talk about that as a baseline. So those are those influences. When do we use them? Well, those are interaction experiences of our heart as we're going through our day that aren't on a Shabbat, aren't on a new moon, that aren't on a feast, that aren't during while we're doing a mikvah, while we're doing incense or other things. So this is what we're saying is the 80% in our lives. And I hope we can kind of see how this is all relating through. So we're going to go through this kind of, I'm going to condense it a little bit, but the same slides we went through that were just mind and body that we talked about, and doing a paradigm shifting about the way the medicine should be applied. We're going to apply that now to what we're learning through the words, the thoughts, and the actions of Yehovah. But what are we going to be adding? The two kingdom view. We're going to be adding in the real world on top of this and see what we come up with. So what are the three components that make up the entire health? Now remember, it's not just mind, body. It's a big hint there. Here we go. Spirit, which our heart, our mind, and our body. So we got three things now included, not just mind, body. All right. So there they are. So what could be a definition of health combining these three components? Got an itchy nose today. So what are they? Okay, let's try this on. This is a definition. See, I'm going to use my highlighter here. A definition, not the definition. Okay, this is just to take us through this. Why do I keep saying that? Because I don't want people taking this totally out of context. This is just to create a concept in our minds to move us along our thinking. So the spirit, the heart, so the spirit in total control of the mind and the flesh, producing the thoughts, the words, and actions of Yehovah. Okay, maybe there's more to it. And through the connection and to the use of Yehovah's power, Yeshua. That's a pretty good definition. I like that. You could have another one, but we're combining. So next, what could be the definition, a definition, of stress considering these three components? Well, here's what I came up with. All spirits of darkness that arise attempting to affect the physiological with stress, so it's imaginary circumstances, physiological with stress towards the mind in an attempt to affect the mental and emotional state of a person, to produce an ailment or problem having a mental cause, thereby submitting their creative will, choice, into a physical or social ailment. Think about that. I took my time to think about that and put that together. But it's the influence of darkness into our mind that we've taught many different ways over a lot of different teachings. Okay, let's move on to some other slides. Remember this one? Well, what did we add in? Well, we added in us, which is the house. So it's the fireman carpenter principle. Who are you going to call? So let's go over and see who we're going to call. What we're going to call the world, right? Traditions of the world, the medicine, the old paradigm that we're born into. No, we're not going to call the world system. Okay, fireman carpenter principle. Traditions of religion. We're going to take the medicine of all this religion that happened, the old paradigm, to be able to fix our body. Well, maybe in their time and generation when that revelation was revealed, but we're in a different time in Revelation, and God's going to be expanding it. So I'm not going to use theirs. We know better. Okay, makes sense to me. So let's move on. So we're going to go to the carpenter, and the carpenter's looking at it like, what a mess. The carpenter approach. When we look back at what's going to be going on in the religious world, that's such a big problem in our minds and the world. But here, we're going to go to the carpenter. What's the carpenter do? He's going to look at each house separately. He's going to work on our past thoughts, words, and actions and get them into the thoughts, words, and actions that he wants. He's going to have a blueprint for us that we're going to develop with him. And then we're going to be able to move forward and let him build to be able to restructure us. First, he's going to break us down to the cornerstone, which is Yeshua, and he's going to build us up from there. Well, wait a minute. We've learned a lot since we've come out of some things, but you know what? How about we just get rid of all that baggage and we move forward? I mean, it's a paradigm shift. We're going to go to the root cause and we're going to be able to grow from there. Each person's a little bit different, but we're going to take the same path with the carpenter, right? we're going to go through the same things that we need to do. More on that. So we're looking at the fireman, carpenter principle different. Over here, I did such a good job, the world, I did such a good job, religion, the medicine from them, the firemen, burning, we're going to call them when your house is burning down, and they're going to come in and it's going to be worse off than before. And then what we have over here is we have what a mess, and it's a different perception of it all. And we're going to come in with the carpenter, and we're going to do a new paradigm. We're going to let him do it. And we know who the carpenter is, right? I think we've caught on to that so far. So let's move on. So we're going to still do a couple more comparable slides. Here we have the two kingdom point of view, the real world. And here we have the other world, the fake world, the second world. And they have a fireman coming out of their hoses, the world, circumstance, and solutions. So we're going to plant the world system, Satan's design is the medicine. And what is typically does it say on the back of the bottle? Just be a good person. Yeah. Do as you will. Just ask, and you'll have it. What feels good? Mini gods are okay. And on the front it says, do whatever pills. Yep, that sounds like the world, doesn't it? Man, I'm really kind of narrowing it down, but that's what's happening. So I have to go to the button over here for this next slide. What is that? That's baggage. It's a ton of baggage. So over next is we're going to take a look at the religious circumstance coming out of the fireman's hose, and they're spraying it all over their solution to the fire. And it's a religious system, Satan's redesign. So let's see some of the things in the back of the bottle. You've done enough. Oh, that sounds religious. You can't sin anymore. Can't sin. Yep. Just say this verse. Just say the verse. No more, no less. Just that. Okay. Good. It's okay. God He forgave you. Yep. It's fine. Don't worry. Yeah. Just do whatever you feel you can do. Oh, it's good. It's good. You won't have it. Don't worry. Got the ticket. Just speak it. It'll work. Yeah. Well done. Just that. That's it. Just speak it. Do what you will. It'll work. What's the front of the bottle say? Take 2 feel better pills. It's a little bit better than the world, but still, it's not. What is it? It's baggage. They're not getting to the baggage that we got to get out. They're just talking to the symptom. They're not going to the root, just like the world. So here we have the word of Yehovah's power, the carpenter approach, and we have over here the Yehovah way approach. So follow me. That's Yeshua. Well, we're going to go through some of his commandments, and we narrowed them down into a tiny space. So see if you can remember some of these commandments from Yeshua. Forgive, be forgiven. Yeah, we know that one. Love Yehovah. Yeah. Treat others as yourself. That's it. Yeah. Your speck first. Yeah. Take care of the log in your own eye first. Keep the rules. Covenant. Yeah. Truth. Pretty easy one. And yes or no. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. And I really worked hard to condense some of those from the commandments of Yeshua. But what we're saying is he has a process, principles to be able to take us through. And then we played it with a comment in an audio of the last beginning of this series of the Word of Yehovah's Power, prophet saying, look, it's real simple. You're going to beat Satan every single time. Just follow the process. You got to change your thinking, is another thing that he said. So am I talking to me? Absolutely. Like I have a mirror over here. I should have placed it right there, but I wouldn't be able to concentrate. But I'm talking to me. I'm talking to me, and you're along for the ride, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm not talking at you at all. Please don't let that come across that way. I'm talking to me. So let's move on. One more. Okay. Next slide. What's the number one cause of the mind and body being run down? Stress. Yeah, remember we went through that? So you tear down and repair starts with warfare for your mind, and we've been through that series, but we've got to be able to get a hold of that mind. So we're back to the stress slide. So stress from darkness' spirit is the number one cause of the mind and body being run down. The stress, and they understand that. See, darkness in high places, and we cut this out from the peace chart that we made, a little flow chart And I hope you have it printed out or you made a better one. If you have, please send it along. I'd love to see it. So darkness in high places, wickedness, powers, principalities, evil angels, devils, demons, familiar spirits, all one and the same, okay? And they're going to project at you stress. Where? In through your minds. You hear these little black horn guys projecting that sound thing into your mind to affect your body, your mind, right? And kind of callous up that spirit. So what do we need to do? Well, let me get to the next slide here. That's the enemy. So the enemy tricks us into emotional reactions. Yeah, they do. The enemy manipulates emotions. We cannot make good decisions while emotional. We've learned that through our mentor. Because once you have an emotion in you, you're adhering to that emotion, the facts are kind of clouded and you're going to go with that. It's kind of pushing you in the direction. And darkness manipulates that quite a bit. And those emotions are going to get you into a stress position. So emotions are the enemy of facts. They're words and imagery, okay? So those emotions, the words and imagery, are going to enemy of facts, and they're going to get your image off balance, and it's going to get you to bring stuff up from the past and other things, and you're going to stay words, and it's going to get you into trouble. Emotions, be careful. And emotion has specific traits, as does the enemy's team. Yeah, these guys over here, darkness and high places, wickedness, all these guys, they have traits. They're in a box. They're stuck one way, right? And then there's different orders in their army. So what happens is you want to track how, somewhat, not perfectly, get an idea of the enemy, how it's attacking you. What emotions are you going through? Can you stop and write it down and say what they're coming from and be honest with yourself? My goodness. Well, we're going to get into that in the next teaching, but it's going to be quite a thing. But it's keeping track of your baggage. So if you can understand what your emotions going on, you can really understand a little bit, a good idea of what the enemy's up to, but that's your baggage. If you can really dig into it, you're really going to start to dig that out. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So the body can be trained to demand emotions. What's the body? So this part, the flesh. It's going to demand emotions. So darkness will say things into your conscious and then into your subconscious, and you're trained. You could create a habitual habit in your thinking and your actions and all sorts of things. And your body's used to getting this chemical that's secreted into your body when you see somebody or from when you're young, and this memory comes up, which you really don't remember because it's in your subconscious. And your body is used to it at a certain time of day or something and has a demand, and then it wants that. So it's going to put you into this repetitive cycle all the time, and that's where darkness wants you, because it's got you on cruise control and you just sit back and you're not going to penetrate the way that you need to penetrate with Yehovah's thoughts, words, and actions. Boy, it's a mouthful. Well, I've said it enough times. We've listened to other people say it, and it's part of what we're teaching here in the ministry. So the body can be trained, okay, to demand emotions. Oh, I've got to go back and hit the button. So the enemy suggests bias. What are you talking about? Yeah, not facts. So your thoughts may not be accurate or correct. So 31. So what does that mean? Okay, so a mother has a child, son or daughter. And a mother knows that son or daughter is not living to the rule, okay, for us, the law, or what Yehovah wants. So when something goes wrong, that mother will have bias sometimes, try and hide, hinder, put aside what's going on, because it's a mom. The mom mixes up some of that emotional love of a mom in with the kid, and then it gets hidden, and it builds and festers and gets worse and worse and worse, and then it's affecting other people, affecting that child itself, affecting the community, and etc. I just use that example. I could use any example. That one is the one that just popped up. But thoughts won't be accurate. That's bias. The mother's having bias, right? So, and they're using emotions. So that's what's happening in that aspect. I mean, it's a good indicator. We've got to watch that. So moving on, the fruit of the Spirit is not an emotion, but an emotion can be present thereafter. So great example is peace. For peace is not an emotion. So it's interesting, after the peace, I've talked to a few people from time to time, or things that people have reached out and whatnot, and they're like, yeah, peace, this and that. I'm like, okay. And they keep talking, and I'm like, well, are you sure that's really peace? And they're like, well, yeah, no, it's peace. I felt it. Here's the thing. When you go through the process with the love, and then you fill up your joy, and then you keep it full in the joy process until peace comes. It's supernatural and divine, and it hits you and you have it. Therefore, the thoughts and the words and actions coming from darkness that want to penetrate, they don't get through because you develop that peace. It is a divine supernatural peace, and you're feeling good about it. The feeling is because you're not having coming in. The feeling is it's not there. And then you can have an emotion, right, through your mind and your body about that peace that is good or beneficial. But the whole thing is it's divine, that shields up. It's not penetrating you, and you're cruising along in the right direction. And then they might be hitting you in different directions through people, darkness. And all of a sudden I started thinking about it. And I started going, oh no. And then I said something, well, peace is gone. You got to repent. You got to go back, go through the love, you go through the joy, build it up so that umbrella's around that. So it's not penetrating you like the shield and the armor. And you have the peace on your feet and the armor. And then you have that peace. Okay. And it's divine. It's not an emotion. Emotion can come after, but it's not what you think. So it's to be learned. It's to be learned. It's quite a thing for those that haven't really fully experienced it yet. I remember when Prophet, and he's going through a CD series on peace, I remember him listening, and he went, the angel told him no one in the audience had peace. Nobody, not even close. At that time when he taught it, had peace because he didn't have the understanding of peace. And today we're still transitioning into that. Anyway, moving on. So the enemy can use good emotions to trick and lie. What do you mean? You can have a good emotion about something, but an angel of lightness or dark can come as an angel of light and suggests a good emotion about something, and then you buy into that emotion, and it makes you make decisions in a direction maybe you shouldn't have. You got to be careful, and that's kind of how that works. Emotions is this whole gateway into what darkness wants to manipulate, amongst other things. I'm not saying it's the only thing, but we're talking about emotions right now. So let's move on. So the two kingdom view of the real world. So we have what we said about with darkness, what it does with the mind, the body, and tries to put the callous over the hearts and the spirit so you can't use it. It's because you're believing into the circumstance of the world that darkness is presenting. And then you don't want to get into that stress. So what we're saying is over here, we want to make sure that we get into, we're using the angelic forces, using the Holy Spirit, using the Bible, using divine fruit. So the love, joy, peace, patience, which is also forbearance and long suffering. And we have kindness and goodness. And goodness is also generosity. Those words, change between interpretations. Faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And then we have the sword of the Spirit and the armor, the word. So then we have the shield, the faith, the helmet of hope, the breastplate of righteousness, the feet, again, peace. Peace is over here also within the fruit, so it's overlapping. And we have the belt of truth, and prayer and fasting. That's our big check mark. So our brain needs to be on these things in communication all the time. Thoughts, words, and actions of Yehovah. So Yehovah must build the brick, okay, every brick of the house, of the vessel, of us. Faith projects, same thing, built the same way through him. Keep going back to him. Have the blueprint and keep going back to him until it's built in 3D. But this is the carpenter, the new paradigm that we have. But peace breaks the yoke with darkness. So you got to develop the peace process over a darkness, problem or issue. And then so that it can stay away, so you can have the clarity to use the rest of these things. Is that what we talked about in the peace series? Absolutely we did. So let's discuss some major transitional topics. Now that we've gone through the slides for the mind body, and then we went mind body spirit, and then we made how the stress works, what stress comes in from darkness, how it affects your body. And if you're under stress, you cannot use what was up top. Let me go back a slide. What was up top here? You can't. If you're caught into the stress which is coming in from darkness, you can't access this stuff properly. Yeah, you might do 20% of it, but you're not going to hit 100% because of the stress, just like what we did with the other example. So I hope we're seeing the crossover, right? Well, family, I Hope you enjoyed looking at the mind and body slides, and then looking at the mind and body and spirit slides and connecting that together. Really kind of get an understanding of what darkness has started to do to lie to us, and get us kind of off balance. So, and the stress that comes in our lives. Next week, we're really going to start to break down more of the paradigms with what darkness has done in the political, within the religious, within the entertainment industries, which are its pillars to lying to us from this programming point of view. And then for us coming out of that, really understanding our hand, this ego, and this baggage that we have, and there's still more work to do. So thank you for spending time with us. I'm looking forward to getting the next part out to you in part 3.